Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wild Woman Podcast. Today I have Giada Lebrecque with me from Canada, and she is the owner operator of She Kneads Holistic Massage. I love that name. I think it's fantastic. She's also an author, a podcaster, a public speaker. I think a beautiful woman. I just met briefly a few years ago for a cup of tea, and it's amazing how people just come in and out of your life at the right time. I feel with every guest, oh, and I get the chills when I say that. I've said it so often, but I just feel it with every guest. They're just sort of guided at the right time to you, because I think it's the conversations are sort of energetically nearly guided by what can be shared between two people or not. So it's really, and we just had a chat before we came on air about intuition and following your intuition. And I think that is a very, it is, we were talking about, she runs obviously a female business, um, but the sort of that energy coming back in again, and it is in men and women. I always say that this is nothing to do with gender or men or women. It's just this beautiful creative energy, which is what we are. We're sort of, yeah, aren't we? We're reclaiming it. That's how I feel in my life. And I think it's a beautiful thing to witness in men and women, because when we live from there, and sorry, I go on about it because I just feel it so strongly, and I feel it from you as well, Jada. And when we live from our heart, there is nothing to worry about. We talk about, don't know why I feel like saying this now, like
Go on.
diversity and freedom and expression. But there is no need for any of us to be labeled anything as long as we're living from our heart. Then we honor who everybody is and their unique expression. I think that's how I feel. I will introduce you to talk now, but it's just something that I don't know. In your presence, I just feel like saying there's this beautiful, and maybe it's a freedom in me that is now emerging, where I can feel freer to say what I need to say, and it's said with love always and from my heart. And I don't think we need to censor that when we are speaking from that place. So, welcome, Jada. Thank you for. I don't know. It must have been our conversation before and your presence that sort of brought that out. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Um, yes, no,
You're
I would
feeling.
definitely say that there is a shuffling, a rebalancing of the feminine and masculine over the last few years for sure, and I'm very happy to see it and to feel it. Even within my own relationship, we don't have very traditional kind of roles, and the traditional feminine roles haven't necessarily always resonated with me. And so, yeah, but it is necessary to have a balance of them within yourself, I think, and like you said, it's not labeling it, but honoring maybe the divine
Yeah.
feminine within yourself. And I try, and I actually had a woman maybe 10 years ago. I went to her, and she was a psychic, and I was pretty desperate at the time. I had a lot of pain on my left side, and I didn't understand why it was constantly my left side. And I went into her, and one of the things she said to me was, "Well, your divine feminine is very wounded, and you need to do some work to start healing that aspect of yourself." And so she made some recommendations to me. At the time, I was very much a tomboy, and I had very masculine like hobbies and activities. And so I started to do these things to kind of nurture my divine feminine, and the pain on my left side did start to resolve after that. So
Wow. What sort of things did you do, out of curiosity? If you can speak about them.
okay, yeah, like also like wearing my hair down, for instance, was something that I was never really very comfortable with. And so that was one of the things. I know it sounds so simple.
No, 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 no. Yeah, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah, myself, I had long hair. It's, yeah, I get the hair. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then and I think women do hold a lot of power in their hair. Especially when it comes to kind of like intuition and that kind of psychic activity, right?
Mhm.
Feel like we feel it in our hair. Uh
Yeah.
which might be a silly thing to say. And then she also recommended wearing different underwear.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That would
that
feel more feminine, I guess.
yeah. Exactly. Um yeah,
I
that
better
those are
say, no, I won't
because
say
it
what
was
I'm going
like
to say.
it was like, it could be your own secret. Like, it's
Yes,
still
yes,
go about your day and not have anybody know that you
yeah.
were doing these things for yourself.
Yes. Sorry, I shouldn't be asking you to reveal those uh personal, but yeah, lovely. So it's almost I just get the sense of ritual as well when you speak. I don't know, that's come up. I think that's quite a feminine, but it's quite a nice way to honor who we are as well, isn't it? And the cycles for men and women, like the cycles of nature, the cycles of everything, like the cosmos, our existence is very cyclical, I sort of feel. And I know for me, I've never now that I'm starting to live more rhythmically, I hope, with cycles and nature, life is becoming a bit easier. Has that been, something that you'd recognize or has come naturally to you?
I do love working with the moon. Am I consistent? Never. I've actually never been consistent basically at anything in my life. And I promised myself a long time ago that I would never live the same day twice.
Wow.
Uh,
Good.
so routine is actually quite a big obstacle for me. However, there is kind of a chaotic coming and going from honoring the cycles for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think it's something that okay, some people thrive on routine. I'm not discounting that. I have the opposite effect. I get very bored and frustrated very quickly by doing the same things over and over again. So there has to be variety in my life. However, I do see it as kind of like the lighthouse, the beacon in the chaos. If I know that I just have to look to the cosmos or to the moon to learn about what's happening or to help myself find center again or to set the right intentions. That is kind of my center point. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I really like that. I think the feminine energy and is very chaotic, creative energy anyways that probably more of us do need to embody. I can't stand routine either, even though I worked a 9 to 5 job for years. I didn't realize it until with the job I got to drive and go on the road a bit, and that was the first time I felt I could breathe. But still, this night, I can't. But what it's taught me in the last few years. I don't know how you relate to this. So I had cancer in 2016, and that sort of re shook me up and brought me back into that. And then I started writing and I wrote a book. And but I needed then what starts to happen is I just call it like structure and flow. So I need to flow, but then, like you said, there has to be that's where I think the masculine and feminine energy within ourself comes in, doesn't it? The masculine can be the container or the structure for whatever creative flow is going on. But without it, it just becomes like, it needs that, doesn't it? That's why we need that within ourselves, that balance. Um,
100%. Yeah, and
yeah.
I love that you talked about the container because it was a concept that was introduced to me by Teal Swan. I don't know how you feel about Teal Swan. She's quite a polarizing character.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
no,
really
I like her. I don't get into extremes. I think she's a lot of amazing. Yeah, I really like her.
I really appreciate the things she has to say. I think she offers a lot of new kind of conversation topics, and one of the things she introduced to me was the concept of containment and the masculine containing the female and explain that whole thing. And it made perfect sense to me. And I understand completely how like women who don't have that containment then have to be extremely masculine to be their own container. But when the feminine has the masculine to contain her, how she can actually be thrive in her femininity, which I think is such a beautiful, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
But do you
balance.
think you have to, gosh, I don't know, we've gone off on this direction now, but which is good. But do you feel you have to have found that balance within yourself first before that becomes more works well in a relationship, if you know what I mean, rather than going into maybe I need this because I don't have it within myself and going into something that's codependent, but rather than, or how do you feel about that having being in a relationship?
Like I see what you're saying, and yes, I think it's necessary for everybody to be on their own to balance those things within them, so that they are not dependent. So that the
Mm,
person isn't your other half. You are equal
mm,
wholes.
yes.
So
Mm,
yeah, yes and no. I think it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationship. I think people do that for each other, whether it's family.
yeah.
I talked to you before the recording
Mm,
about my brother. Like my brother does a lot of that for me as well. And,
mm,
friends, mentors through your life, teachers. I think there are various aspects of containment, and it doesn't have to be just a romantic partner.
yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we can do that for each other, and it doesn't
Yeah.
just have to be men and women, but like, it's
Yeah.
what whether it's a friendship or a mentorship, but creating that, like you said, framework or structure so that you can begin to kind of thrive and use your creative, chaotic energy within that structure. Maybe?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I know. No, sorry. It's a curiosity. I think a lot of people are talking about it. No, it just came up there. I think it's a beautiful thing to start to understand in yourself, and it'll show up differently, I know, for everyone. But even it's recognizing that within yourself and that it's okay to have both going on. And maybe it's okay to be more in one, for a while, maybe that's what you need, and maybe that's where your strengths are. Like I would have I got cancer on the right hand side, and I know it was very much because I was living in my masculine, like you said, maybe because that's how we had been conditioned as women, often, survival and this sort of struggle and strive and no nurturing at all, or no self nurturing. So it was necessary for me to be sort of stripped back from that into a very different place. But somebody else may not have that as, something that was going on with them. I suppose we're always unlayering it all, aren't we? Each of us, depending on our lives and our conditioning and how we were brought up and what we believe. Has that been a big journey for you in your own life? The sort of, because you're young and you're very self-aware, and you strike me as very intuitive, connected, very heart-led, very, it's just beautiful. I love meeting younger women and men who are just in that place in themselves. And I'm always nearly almost going, how did you find this so young?
Yeah. Well, I actually have a very not similar story, but it's the same, I think, theme, or I don't know. It's
Mm,
the same catalyzing agent, which was cancer. It wasn't like I didn't have cancer, but when I was 7, my cousin, and he was also one of my best friends, Mark, he was 9, he died of leukemia. And when you are a child, you don't understand these concepts.
mm,
And um, sorry,
oh,
just you feel so helpless.
mm.
Um,
I was so young. I'm getting a chill. I feel he's
yeah.
with us. I
Oh,
get,
absolutely. I've interacted more with Mark in spirit than I ever have in life. But we were very close, and we did a lot together, a lot of kind of like firsts together, like watching The Lion King for the first time, and watching The Little Mermaid and these kinds of things. So I have a lot of like really beautiful memories tied to him. And so after he passed, um, nobody really spoke about him, and it was all just kind of, even his family, a lot of people just kind of stopped checking in on them and seeing them. And I never thought it was right. And so I think I've spent a lot of my life hoping that there
Mm,
would be something that could be different. Uh,
mm.
Um,
So he's played a
sorry.
big part. No, it's lovely. It's lovely. Sometimes that's what needs. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful that you feel that, and I don't know. You feel that he's. You see, I think it's a beautiful thing to say as well that he's been with me more in spirit than he has physically, and I felt that with my father, even though he's died later when I was older. I feel not that he wasn't of help to me, but his
right.
humans, I think his spirit self can be of more more help, so, and it has been the case. So it's isn't that a beautiful, when you say that, what I think is, wow, what a beautiful gift from that soul to give you at such a young age, as painful as it is as a person, and to have to go through it. you know, what you're describing, then look at what it's led you on in your life so young that it needed a catalyst, didn't it? Sometimes that's the thing with our pain. It does, but can become the catalyst to something beautiful. But it's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it is probably one of the main cornerstones of why I am who I am.
Wow.
And what you're saying there kind of about your father, I feel like I'm much closer to people once they are in spirit than they ever were in life, you know? And I don't often say that out loud because people will look at you like you have six heads.
No, I don't think so anymore. I think the more we say it, we more we give permission to others who are feeling it. I think that's the time we're living in, where maybe things we were afraid to say, I'm finding, no, this is how we become more authentically or claim our power or whatever, whoever we are. And unless we in I just I was listening to someone last night. Oh, I will go off on a tangent now if I start talking about that. But it was really about, yeah, sort of reclaiming, how was he describing it now? A lot of, yeah, it's sort of, we have to do this within ourselves first, you know, that we can become okay with the world. It's not about things changing out there, you know, even in your own personal situation in your life. So it is how we embody more of ourselves, I suppose, is what changes things, you know. So
Yeah.
you being you is what gives as well as a sort of a an honoring of that too.
Well, we were talking about this again before the recording. I'm Cancerian, and so like, Cancerians are kind of stereotypically the emotional ones. Like we feel so much, and that's kind of when I said like I'm not really proud of it, but it does. And I'm also Scorpio rising, so like I have like those deep, watery, emotional. I go deep with
Mm,
things.
mm,
Uh, so I think, yeah, it was inevitable. No matter if it was Mark that I lost or somebody else, it was going to be something I felt very deeply, and that was going to be something that I always had to look at. So kind of like the healer heal thyself. Like I think naturally I look a lot at a lot of my wounds and feel like I have to do something about them. And because I've experienced so much pain, I'm very comfortable in other people's pain,
mm,
and
mm,
I feel like I've been grieving my entire life, and so I'm very comfortable in grief, and I'm feel very drawn to help other people in those places so that they don't feel alone, or like they are wrong or they are broken or et cetera, et cetera. Um, which I think a lot of society doesn't really want to look at those things. You know, they won't just want to have the crack and have, everything's peachy keen.
mm.
Uh, but I know it's not. So I can't ignore it.
That's just, oh my God, what a gift. But when I'm listening to you, I just feel, yeah, that word grief came up. It does still for me, and did, if you, and sometimes I don't know if it's, I've talked about it before, whether it's, I'm actually interviewing a woman in a week or two about, she has been very, what would I say? She's involved a lot in the practice of keening, you know, the ancient Irish practice of keening and honoring the grief. And I interviewed a woman down in Kerry a few weeks ago as well. And she said something very similar to you. She said she does these rebirthing processes, and she would have had a life of, I mean, I just did, anyone who's gone to those depths, I mean, I just, you know, I have in my own way, but you know, there is such gold. It sounds very cheesy, but I do believe that there is, that is where, that is what it is to be human, is to feel like it, if you're not feeling, you know, and I didn't for years, so I get it. Like I anesthetized myself through alcohol and anything I could find because I found life so painful. And it sounds like you did. So to come back and start to feel and realize you won't die, you know, I don't, you know, but she was saying, sorry, just to say to your point there, that you cannot hold space for someone. You cannot go to the depths with someone else unless you've been to those depths yourself to be truly. And I'm guessing, and we'll talk about what's led you to your work. That has been a big part of your journey into your work now with women, I imagine, is it?
Yes, I mean, like, so I found Reiki when I was 21, and I just dropped out of university. I was studying philosophy, and what I realized was that I didn't care what other people thought or how they thought. What I cared about was how I thought. And at the time, I had a very toxic headspace. Um, I was self-medicating. I, smoked a lot of pot. I'm not so much a drinker, but definitely I abused substances to cope with the pain that I had, and I'm, to a degree still dealing with. But I wasn't happy with where my headspace was, and so then I kind of um, found Reiki, and that started me down the path of healing myself and being able to work with these energies for the first time in my life, and not feeling like I was helpless or had to turn to somebody else to help me. It was something that was kind of empowering. And so that at first was, I when I say this, I don't mean to offend anyone, but I felt like Reiki was a bit more of a party trick than anything else.
Like a
uh
gateway. Is it not like a gateway drug? But it's like everybody seems to enter in through the Reiki.
right. Yeah.
Seems to be the initiatory path, maybe the beginning of it or something. I don't know. Mm.
I agree with you. And even people who say to me, like, where do I start with working on myself? I always tell them, do a Reiki level 1, so you can start to understand the energies,
Mm.
work with the energies yourself. And so that was my gateway drug. And for a few years, I just kind of did it here and there. Like, for instance, like there's a woman in my life who was never able to burp. Okay. And she really suffered with it even as a baby. She really struggled. Her mother really struggled with her. She was a very colicky baby. And so one day we were at her dinner table with her family, and she was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go pull the trigger," which means like, like kind of when you put your finger down your throat. And she would do that to release the pressure. And sometimes she would end up getting sick, but she did just do it to try to release the pressure because she would get so uncomfortable. And it was very normal to her to have to do that. And so I said, "Can you just wait a second?" And I just put my hand on her and I started, channeling the Reiki. And I started doing these little burps. And all of a sudden, she let out this massive burp. And her whole family, everybody went silent and looked at her. And her mother was like, Get the F out." What was that? Like, how did that just happen? Because she's known her daughter her entire life to never be able to do this. And now she can do it not on purpose, but she can do it all the time whenever she needs to. So there was clearly just this blockage there. So when I say party trick, like that's what I mean, it was just
Yeah.
like, it's not like people came to me or I went to them. It was just these circumstances that would come up, and I would be like, okay, let me try this thing. And it would always shift the energies. And so then years went on like that, where it was not something I took very seriously until I found massage therapy. And the way I found massage therapy has its own story, but at some point very early in my kind of massage experience, I was hit by a bus and I had a number of injuries. Like I was head to toe injured, and took 18 months for like proper rehabilitation, learning how to walk properly again. Like I had very severe sciatica for a very long time. I was the most miserable person you would have ever met, which I feel like now I completely understand miserable people, that they're all just walking around with so much pain that they don't know what to do with.
Mm.
And so, like, that was all physical pain.
That's what I was
Uh,
going to say. That was all. Was that all physical? Because I mean, yeah, there's all. Okay, so that was all physical pain. Would you say was there? I'm not saying a reason why this happens, but different things happen. Was there a build up? Do you feel of emotional pain that almost? I'm not saying led to it because that sounds very. I don't mean it like that, but maybe culminated in physical pain because often it is, isn't it? It starts energetically first, doesn't it?
uh, something had happened to me 2 weeks before that I would never wish on anyone. And I think I was so out of my body after that happened to me that this bus accident actually just knocked me back into my body. But yeah, so when I say it was like there was that
Yes.
energetic emotional
Yes.
um, side to it, absolutely. But the physical pain was so severe that I couldn't look at anything else. And I refused to take pain medication because I felt it gave me a false sense of security. And part of my injuries was that I had herniated my L3, L4, L4, L5, and L5S1 discs. And
I've
so,
never. Oh, it sounds. I've never had. Yeah, that just sounds so painful without
yeah,
knowing.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like walking around like a Jenga that's about to fall over at any point, but any slight movement sends you into a world of pain. And so I had to, because I refused to take the pain medication, I had to go down the self-medicating route as well of like, finding the answers to my pain. And I feel like for a very long time I've resonated with the archetype of Chiron, the wounded healer. Do you know like the story of Chiron? And
Mm.
so I feel like that is why I am hesitant to say I'm so good at my job, but why I do believe that I'm very good at my job is because I understand what it is to be in so much pain, and to
Oh,
just push
yeah.
through. Uh,
How did you like it just it amazes me that, and we can all say I'm now in my life definitely much more drawn to natural. I just can't physically, my body doesn't tolerate, anymore. But I just think you were going through so much pain. What was it, like you said there, you didn't want to, you didn't sort of want to, what was it, sorry, that kept you from going? I mean, such awful pain. I need to take something. I don't care. What did you say again? Sorry, that stopped you from going the pain medication route.
it was a false sense of security.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew that if it numbed the pain, didn't resolve it, if it just numbed it, that I would cause myself way more pain because
That's
with
huge awareness, though. That's huge awareness to have, like at that age, even because I think a lot of people would say, no, you just need to get, you can't heal physically unless you sort of, reduce the pain. So there was something in you very, yeah,
I think it helped that I was studying the anatomy and
yes,
starting to understand the human body, in order to
yeah.
understand the severity of my injuries.
Yes,
Because
you'd started massage. Sorry, you'd started the
yeah,
train. Yes, okay, yeah, yeah.
I was very early days into my massage program, but we had done an anatomy course, and so I understood the basics of disc herniation and that it can get much worse. And so even lifting something like 10 pounds can make it, it can aggravate it. You can just sneeze wrong and you can be making it so much worse. I've been there and I've done it. And for years, I would, anytime I felt a sneeze coming on, I would have to get into a sneeze position that made my back safe. I could be 4 o'clock in the morning and I could like wake up in terror and have to roll into this position in order to sneeze or cough because I knew that if I just did it the wrong way, I would be not able to walk for weeks. So
Oh my God.
yeah, and it's amazing how much I just normalized that and didn't really talk about it to anyone, because
Mm.
you become a broken record just telling people that you're in pain because they
Mm.
don't really see that like it's not like you have an amputated arm or something like this. All they see is that you're hobbling around like an 80-year-old woman, but they don't understand why, So, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah, it was that sort of awareness, or as you said, there'd be a false sense of security if you
Yeah.
did. So how long did that go on for? Or what did you find to support yourself through that, coming out the other end of it in some ways?
There's a lot of answers to that, and I think
Mhm.
it was like the layers that I had to go through. Acupuncture is one of my favorite things of all time. It's just pure magic. And so in my really desperate pain where I couldn't walk and where I had to be carried to the bathroom and stuff like this, like acupuncture was the thing that got me able to like walk.
Oh my God.
Um,
That sounds like such a difficult. It still obviously does it just. I don't want to bring you back into that, but it sounds like, wow,
yeah,
I can't even, it's very hard to even sometimes understand what but it's so, thank you. And I don't want to sort of push you into reliving this by talking about it.
yeah.
But I think it's just to understand the depths of what some people go through, and then what they bring, the bravery. I just think it's the courage of people, anyone who chooses to live fully. That's
Right.
where your gifts are found. And it sounds very, but I know my deepest, darkest times are where I couldn't be doing anything I do now without them, because
Oh,
I know I went to the depths of times where I didn't even want to be here. So, and I think the more we speak about this, we give others, permission or hope or whatever, like what you're sharing and what you chose to go through. So
yeah.
thank
So
you. Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a lot about resilience. It teaches you what you're made of, you know, and that even when it's terrible, it's still not that bad. I don't know if that makes any sense. like, yeah, I can't walk, but I have a roof over my head, and I have people who love me. You know, like these kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Well, I suppose that's a perspective you either choose to come to, or I don't know. I suppose you may have no choice. But isn't it sometimes, I'm not diminishing your pain now, but often I know for me, and I think for many of us, this sort of constant living in fear of something that may happen and could be awful. Firstly, it may never happen. And then when it happens, you go, I got through that, and often I'm not saying your pain was very prolonged, but I found it in a different way with emotional pain. I lived in sort of this prolonged suffering because I didn't want to feel what was coming up. And as a result, I prolonged it. I'm not blaming myself, but now I'm learning, no, just sit, feel it. You don't die. I suppose I said you won't die when you feel something. It will move, doesn't it? It moves through you. This is emotionally. Um,
That and when you face death, like almost like kind of certain death, you know, like cancer, or like being almost run over by a bus. I think like there's a saying that it's like if you die before you die, you'll never die. Um
I think you
and
have to die before you die. That's the whole
you know,
point in some
like
ways.
when you like very seriously face your own mortality, after that everything is borrowed time, and you like the fear is not in you as much anymore. Like I don't actually think I have a lot of fear in my system ever since these things have happened, because you realize how resilient you are, but also at the same time that you could have died in that moment. And so anything after that is just a blessing or a gift. And so even if I die tomorrow, it's totally fine because I got all this borrowed time, you know? Yeah. And
Yeah, I
like
like that. Yeah. You have to.
yeah, there's like something, another layer that I want to talk about, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's okay that I go.
Yes, do please.
So there's some of my injuries that like lasted for years, you know, like up until a couple of years ago, I would still wake up in pain every morning, like feeling like an 80-year-old woman. I could walk, but like it would just be the first half an hour of my day would be very difficult. And I found actually sea swimming to be one of the most amazing things for me, jumping in at Galway Bay at Blackrock. If I could get into that water, if I could get myself there, the rest of the day, I'd be fine. I'd have no pain. I just would go to sleep, and then I'd wake up and the pain would reset. So I'd have this kind of like,
Last of. Mm.
yeah, I'd have this kind of like this freedom for as long as I got into the ocean, I was fine. So that was amazing, but it still would reset every time I would wake up. So clearly there was still an issue there. And then a few years ago, I was invited to go do an ayahuasca ceremony in Gort, and
In
I
court, it sounds so funny. You wouldn't have heard that said in Ireland a few years.
yeah, yep,
Anyone
um,
who knows Court, it's a lovely place, but
so
ayahuasca ceremonies weren't exactly, not that I know of, maybe they were.
well, like, yeah, and maybe I shouldn't be giving so much detail,
No,
but
no, I mean, it's all above board.
right, yeah,
No.
and so I did the medicine, and I was in so much agony the entire night. Like, I was at one point, I had to leave the room, I had to go outside and just scream because I was in so much pain, um, and I asked the medicine, why am I in so much pain still? Like it was like 8 years after my accident. Why is this still so painful? And the medicine said, "This is where you're holding your anger at your mother." And it was like all the lights turned on. It was just like, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense." So after that, I started doing therapy around that subject, and I have no pain anymore. Like there's just no pain. Yeah.
That is that is phenomenal. Oh my God. But if anyone doubts, and I hear those stories, like that's just, I that's what I can't, yeah, it still blows my mind sometimes if you share these stories. And I've heard so many,
Right.
people will still, how you can doubt the mind, body, soul, spirit connection. It just, you know, because the same, yeah, that's phenomenal. And was that through, so like actual like psychotherapy, talk therapy, is it? Or were you doing other things to sort of support it?
I was doing any and everything. Like internal family systems, I find to be
Mm.
very helpful. Cranial sacral therapy. Uh, like yeah, I've done EMDR. I don't like EMDR. I'm gonna be honest.
That's using your eyes, isn't it? It's the rapid eye movement, is it? Where, yeah, yeah.
I've done like psilocybin, like, just like very strong doses of psilocybin. That was probably one of the most powerful shifts for me, for working on the stuff around my mother. I feel like I've tried most things, and it all just kind of strips layers back. And, there's always more layers to be stripped back, but I feel like I'm in a very good place now, having worked through so much of it.
Yeah, I love what you say about the layers because that's my feeling as well. Well, that was I only can sort of put words on it in the last few years, really after cancer, because I had this sense of, it actually only came to me recently, what you described there, of being jolted back into my body through cancer. I think I was out of my body from a very young age. And then I was like coming back in and feeling everything. Like, oh my God. But initially it was like, I actually woke up with a dream of it. Maybe it was because I was speaking to you. And it was like, I can't even describe it. It was like, those strawberries they dip in chocolate. And it was like, I can't, it was like being dipped into who I am. Like there's all this layers around me, but it was like it dissolved. I was dipped in, but then I had to come back and live. So I got a taste of who I was, truly, before all the layers came on, and then came back into life and went, whoa, I know now what it is to be free or to be me, but now I still have all these layers on. So the rest of my days, I suppose, is going to be taking them off and doing it in the body. You know what I mean? As opposed to, there's something in that and how you describe in a way, it's a beautiful gift. I don't know if did you ever have in the midst, I suppose I wanted to ask you, in the depths of your pain, like, was there a place that you got to just to be in it? Like, what happened that allowed you, did you just have to go, "Ah, I gotta feel this, or is there something that you learned from that, like around?
Um, Well, like I had been trying to run away for a long time, and finally I chose not to run, but to plan and leave. And I told my family, I'm leaving in a year. You have a year with me, and then I'm gone. And it was giving myself that distance, that ocean between me and that life. That was, I think, the thing that allowed me to start healing properly. So Ireland has been that container for me, and my partner has been that container for me. But you can't really heal around what has hurt you. So
Mm,
um, I think, yeah, giving myself that buffer zone, and that safety has
yeah.
been a massive part of allowing me to heal. And I don't know if I would have ever been able to get to where I am right now if I had never left. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my answer. I don't know
Yeah.
if
No, no, I get it. I was even feeling like, yeah, I think, yeah, you have to be, I think, you're just reminding me now because so much of what you're saying, even though it's been very, that's why I think it's so important for as well for listeners maybe who I know and often listen and will often comment back to me, even though the stories don't have to be exactly the same execution. We're all human, so the same patterns and things emerge in all of us. So it's so helpful just to hear because often we get light bulb moments, little epiphanies from one thing someone shares, and they may just pass it off as something small, but it's not. It's life changing for someone else. And the safety you talk about is so, because I remember being back in my house, my own home, I'm not there now, for a few years. And it was like, I'm wondering, is it the same when I meant even in the physical of the accident being stopped for so long? Like I always feel I needed cancer to stop me for a long time. I had been in a car accident, but it wasn't bad. So back I was again running. So then the cancer was like, no, okay, we got to take you out for a few years for this to really, you've been running so long. So as I presume, when you're saying how the severity of your accident obviously had a big role to play, did it in that process, that you're not going back to running because you couldn't physically, obviously, even
Mhm.
as well, you know,
Yeah,
is that, yeah,
it stopped a lot of things that I was doing.
yeah.
But I'll just leave it there. But
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah. I don't want to dig much deeper, but it
yeah,
was just more the just the that ability to withstand physical pain. I must say, just it's obviously been a big, yeah, journey and for you, and you ended up here. So you've ended up in Ireland, and we'll talk about your business now. So you have She Needs, your massage, and I can only imagine, Jada, like from what you're saying, like the wounded healer, that you bring all you've been through to working with clients. So you work in terms of, can you describe it's holistic massage, is it? So you blend a lot of things?
yeah. I mean, I think most holistic practitioners go down this road where they pick up one modality and then they get another one, and then eventually they have this tool belt of modalities. And so I feel like I've spent the last 10 years really working towards the title of remedial therapist, which to me means that whatever your issue is, I can help you resolve it in some, like, I can help you shift that energy, I can help you release that pain, whatever it is. And so when people ask me what I do, very simply, I'll say I'm a massage therapist just to kind of not
Yeah.
drag out the conversation further and make it about me. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot more complex than just doing massage therapy because I really try to look at the person mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. And my health history intakes are very in depth. And there's so many times where people who maybe didn't get the weren't told by a friend or they just kind of happened to stumble across me that they come in and they're like, I wasn't expecting this, um because they just expect to be say
Mm,
like, yeah, my back and shoulder hurts, but I want to know all the bits, like how are they sleeping, what is their digestion like, what are they like hormonally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, what are the operations, injuries that they've had. And we kind of go really deep into these things so that I can have the whole picture of the person, and then their pain makes so much more sense. And
mm,
they might not even understand how to connect those dots, but because I now have 10 years at least under my belt of this, I can start to really connect some dots, and talk to them about the emotional pain that they're carrying that they might not even realize. There's so many times where somebody will say to me, and it's always the right shoulder for some reason, but like,
mm.
there's like a couple stories there, but I feel like there's one really potent one that so there I do corporate massage as well. I go into offices and I treat men and women. And so this man comes in and he goes, my right shoulder has been killing me for 3 months and I don't know why. I didn't fall, I didn't do anything. And I said, okay, well, what happened 3 months ago? He goes, nothing. And I said, okay, who is the man in your life that you feel burdened by or responsible for? And he immediately started to cry. Which, like, for a man, an Irish man, no less, like,
An Irishman. Gotta add that in.
oh my gosh. But, like, I held the space, and
Yeah.
he started crying, and he goes, my 16-year-old nephew died 3 months ago, and his dad is my brother, and I've been very concerned for him. I feel very worried for him. So, like,
Wow.
he, when I said, what happened 3 months ago, and he goes, nothing, you know?
Yeah.
It's not until you, like, poke the wound of, like, like, how does this energy make you feel? And then it's like, oh, now the whole picture is laid out in front of you. And we talked about it while I worked on his shoulder, on his back in general. And by the time he walked out, he had no pain or much less pain than what he had walked in with. But if I had just worked on his shoulder, that pain would still be there. And there are people who go to physio and stuff for years just thinking it's just the shoulder, it's just the knee, or it's just whatever. And then you start actually talking to them about the emotional bit, and the energy just dissipates.
Isn't that
Um,
incredible? Did he get a new awareness around that, do you think? I mean, I know, like, did he sort of go, whoa, oh, like that he connected the dots for himself? That,
he didn't really understand the mechanics of it, and so I started to explain to him that the body holds our stress and our pain, and it shows us symbolically what the themes are around the pain. And so, like, the shoulders are burden and responsibility, the right side is the masculine, and so that is why I have asked about the man in his life that he feels burdened and responsible for. If it had been his left hip, I probably would have been asking him about his mother, like these
mm,
kinds of things. Um,
mm, mm,
and so that it's not that I'm just psychic. Like there's
yeah,
a formula that the body has for communicating, and we as holistic practitioners understand this formula, but the average person has not been taught about their body at all, never mind the energetic and emotional sides, and therefore it's not common sense until somebody says it out loud, and then you're like, yes, that makes total sense.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. But it's incredible to hear a man, as well. It's lovely to hear that, that having that experience and maybe going away and having that sort of awareness. Like, are you finding more clients are, let's say, maybe more open or more aware who are coming in now to the fact that everything is connected, maybe more than years ago?
Yeah. I don't think there's anyone that turns around and says, "No, that's not true," or "No, that's not my experience," or if if it doesn't even if it doesn't immediately resonate, I think they will say to themselves like, "I need to think about this. There's something there that I need to think about," as opposed to
Mm,
just an automatic, "No, that's not me." Uh,
mm,
and like kind of like the astrology bit, you might not be interpreting the planets exactly. Like there's the energies there. You might be saying like it's AB, but really it's a BC, but like you don't know the context enough to say that it's the other thing. But I think if they walk away and start to really think about it, then the penny drops at some point. But
yeah.
you have to open that door for them. It's not for you to be psychic and tell them exactly what's wrong. It's for you to suggest these are the energies. How do those play out in your life?
Yeah, that's it. That's the empowering bit, isn't it, as well, rather than saying this is what's wrong. I mean, I used to think that a bit at the beginning with the astrology, oh, we've just solved this problem of this person. When you're going, no, all you need to do is suggest possibilities around the energy, which is the energy doesn't lie. I suppose that's the other thing, isn't it? Energy, I'm sure you feel, to me, that's it's like somebody saying different words, going, I love you, or I love you, or something like that, and going, well, I told you I loved you. And, denying, I think this is part of I'm sort of this reclaiming our power, which I think is what you're helping people do. You're helping them heal and then find they have the power within themselves, don't they? That's obviously a big part of what I imagine you're about, that the yeah.
I don't want people to feel they are dependent on me or anybody else
Mm,
outside of
mm,
themselves. And so if you can empower people with the information that their body's trying to give them, then it's like, okay, now you know this. What are you going to do about it? You know?
mm,
Like even with my own hip, it was like I could keep going to acupuncture and physio and whatever else, but once I knew that it was the emotional stuff, it was like, okay, what am I going to do about this? And people even okay, so like I do lymphatic drainage, right? And lymphatic drainage is not the most common thing to find in Ireland. There's not a lot of people who do
mm,
it. So I always make sure to explain to my clients what the lymphatic system is, how it works, and how they can do their own lymphatics, because I don't want them to feel like every time they feel a bit like they have fluid retention or swelling that they have to come to me and spend the whatever amount of money, because like, people have
mm,
lives to budget around. They don't want to just be constantly throwing money to have somebody else do it for them. So if they can just learn how to do it for themselves, it's not overly complicated. Do I recommend they do it for other people? No, but like, once
mm,
they have the information of how to do it themselves, then they have that they're empowered, they can take care of their lymphatic system, they can help themselves detox, and they can help themselves shift the energies and not feel so stagnant. So I think it's very important, and it's what one of the things I resent most about the medical system, the Western medical system, is we are not given any information even if you ask a
Mm.
question, it's a vague answer. And it's like they don't want us knowing about our bodies and how it works and what to do about it. So that's why I've swung so far in the opposite direction, which is like educating people about their bodies. And very often I have to remind myself to ask the person if they even want to know this. It's like I love nerding out about it. It's like, do you even want to know about how this works? I can explain it to you, but do you want to know?
Do you want to have the power back in your life? But sometimes we have to swing the opposite direction. I think we've all been so afraid to, again, there's this whole area, certain things not to say because, people get labeled. But I think we sort of have to rise above that and show that when you speak out of truth or a caring and for other people and from your heart, you're not doing any damage. It's about the end of the day giving people choice as well. I mean, nobody's, that's how I feel anyways. I would prefer to have informed choice and let everybody choose what they want to do, but rather being railroaded in any form in life into any direction is not, it's not okay. It's not who we are. We have this, yeah, we should be free to be who we are in this life, you
I will
know.
never encourage anybody, or I will never tell somebody I'm the expert in something, and I will never tell somebody just believe me, just trust me.
Mm,
Like it's
mm.
always do your own research. Always, kind of figure out what's right for you. Here are the answers that I have found. They might not be your same answers, but it might be something that could lead you in a direction that will just like catapult you into the right direction. It doesn't have to be the thing, but it
Yeah,
could open you up.
it's
So
like
for
the Reiki coming into the energy healing, like that can be, yeah, it can be an avenue in.
Exactly. Like for instance, for me, medicinal mushrooms, not magic mushrooms, even though they're magic in their own way, but medicinal mushrooms are just this. It's almost like nobody knows about them, but they're some of the most ancient medicine. Like the oldest specimen of human that has ever been found frozen in ice had chaga in his medicine pouch. And yet so many people don't know what chaga is. And it's like the strongest immune booster on the planet, kills cancer cells. It reverses HIV, like, by promoting the growth of white blood cells. Like it is just incredible medicine,
Mm,
but nobody knows about it. So, very often I'll tell people about it, not to be like, you have to take this, but
mm.
just educate yourself on it. Start to learn about these things because nature provides our
Absolutely
medicine.
provides. Yeah,
you know and you can choose then if you want to take the chaga or if you want to take the whatever
pill.
whatever
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever you choose.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't want
yeah.
to get myself or you in trouble, but
I
like
know. Yeah.
um and then as you start researching chaga, then maybe you learn about reishi, and then maybe you learn about lion's mane, and then maybe you learn about turkey tail, and you go down this rabbit hole and you're all the better for it because it's never gonna, or I shouldn't say never, but it's not gonna harm you by taking these things in the recommended dosage, but it
Mm.
will definitely heal you and like open you up to new possibilities that you probably didn't know were possible, you know?
Yeah. As someone said to me, with our original medicine, I'll call it our natural medicine, there are side benefits, not side effects. So isn't that nice way to, it's really the truth because
Love
uh,
that.
yeah, and like what you said, whatever it is, whether it's mushrooms or herbs, I'm into the oils now. I sort of move with whatever comes
Yeah.
up because I think that's how natural, we're organic. We talked about the intuition. If you understand, our essence of life force energy, however you want to view it, it's sort of always, isn't it, in movement. So it sort of finds, nature always finds a way and finds its way back to balance. So can I add just on that as well? Because what I've noticed in myself, so I'd be curious what you feel about this. The more I've started, I talk about the oils because it's what I'm doing right now and what's really come into me and is really helping me and reducing toxins. The more I've been sort of allowing myself be intuitively led with them, so I'll take one for something. It's like it opens something else. I think they talk about your DNA coming online. I really believe that now that we're designed, without all this junk DNA. I can feel like little lights. It might sound crazy to some people listening to this, but I almost feel like light switches are going on all the time, and I know things I didn't, but it's like what's coming in naturally is sort of guiding that process, if you know what I mean. And I don't know, I'm going, why am I really called to this today? But I'm trusting it. So this is the miracle, I think, that's available to all of us. But it took detoxing a lot probably in my life. I suppose that's the question I wanted to ask you about, because we sometimes don't realize how, I didn't, how toxic our lives are in general, even when we try not to be, just everything is. So does that come up much? Because I'm able to feel more now than I did, you know? And I know sometimes we don't want to feel, but as a result of that, then this is the side benefit. Your intuition comes online, something happens, you know what I mean? It just opens up doorways of knowing and wisdom
Yeah.
inside.
I think
If that makes sense.
it's been layers of like now it's a lot more subtle. Before it took taking a bus hitting me to know there was
Mm.
something wrong, whereas now it's so much more subtle, and it could be as simple as like a zit coming up, or like, you know, like I know that's a very simplified answer, but like um yeah, there are very subtle signs now that I'm able to pick up on that I was never able to before. And now I don't feel as afraid of symptoms because I know that I have this plethora of medicine available at my fingertips. You know, I told you about the copaiba oil before. Uh
Yes.
like the I was just talking about the chaga. Chaga is one of like my favorite medicines of all time. The copaiba as well. Um my latest modality that I've been diving into is the Bach remedies. Like they're flower essences, you know, and they do have trace amounts of alcohol, so not everybody can or should take them maybe, but I've found them amazing, especially because they work against on a subtle level, but it's more about the emotional and mental side of things that they are healing, which like is uh, almost like unheard of. Like, what do you mean you can take a flower essence and suddenly I'm able to tolerate people more? Like,
You will have everybody queuing up for those.
right? And like it's amazing how you can use that tool as a divination. You know, you can like a person comes into you and I will do some muscle testing every time it comes up with like the almost the verbatim words that they have used. You know, like this woman comes in the other day and she talks about how she doesn't really like being here and she really misses home and this and the other. And then one of the words was homesickness. And like she didn't say homesick, but she was just lamenting in, you know, for a few minutes about homesickness, but didn't actually say the word. And then this book in very succinct one word, homesickness. And that's just one example of many. uh but even something as simple as that, that you can ask the medicine, like, what does this person need? And if you know how to do it, like it will come forward for you. You don't even have to figure it out yourself. And probably the oils can be used very much the same if you know how to do it.
Mm.
You can just muscle test and find out that the body
Yeah.
actually does really need some frankincense right now, or whatever it might be. If you're feeling a bit like mentally low and drained, then like some grapefruit, bringing that into your atmosphere, and that will zest you right back up. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's so simple and almost too simple,
Yeah.
but
But it's a
it
beautiful, sorry,
yeah,
continue. Yeah, I didn't mean to
oh, yeah.
interrupt you.
Oh, go ahead.
Uh, but no, it's just, it's, isn't it? It's a beautiful, that's what I'm finding. It's, and for listeners as well, I suppose the difference is, and there is a shift that has to happen. It's not, I'm not, we're not pushing one way or another, is that what really happened was with me, you have to move from the very sort of quick fix, I suppose, instant gratification that we're all look, it's natural human to do that. But you know what you said at the very beginning about when you were young and the accident and your pain, and something told you, you know, if I just take a pill, this, you know, this is sort of a false sense of security. And I suppose that's why so many of us do end up, I did, in lives that seem to be just on a hamster wheel of some form of suffering. It'll show up, that they call them, or your samskara, but you know, that sort of, so something has to happen for you nearly to start going, okay, I need to, you know, a little hole or something, a gap has to happen, like an illness that gives you a way out. But it does, doesn't it? It entails then having to go deeper and slower and work with it, because it's often with the oils as well. When I started, And I know the person I got them through as well, going, these will work with you, but this isn't like taking a pill. There was a period of readjustment, I suppose, as well, isn't there? That, how do you find that yourself, but also if people are coming to you and saying, well, I'm living such a busy life and it's crazy and I can't afford to slow down and whatever, do these things. How, does that come
Uh,
up?
I've discovered a new system that I feel like has given a bit of an answer to this, and a lot of people have come back to me saying that it resonated with them so well. So what I did last year, a lot of my focus was on sorting out what my relationships were, and the way I did that was with a very simplified system of the lights, the green, yellow, red. Um, so I asked, whatever, I was like, what I had to look at people in my life in the terms of green, yellow, and red. Who is a green? Who is a yellow? Who is a red? The
Mm.
green are the people who make me feel loved and heard and seen and respected. That if I say to them, my feelings are hurt by this, that they turn around and actually want to hear what has happened and they actually know how to apologize for it. These types of people that are genuinely there because they love you and care for you. And then there's the yellows who you might even not know what the issue is, but something feels off. And maybe it's just that they drain your energy or whatever it is, or that if you were to say to them, hey, this didn't sit well with me, that they would just kind of more attack you for it than uh, apologizing or having the conversation. And then there's the reds who don't have any respect for you, who they are not a safe person to be around for you mentally, emotionally, whatever. Um, so once I kind of created that system, everybody slotted in very quickly. And it made me realize how many yellows and reds I was giving my time, energy, and attention to that I didn't need to be, or I shouldn't be almost. And then it showed me also the greens that do deserve my time, energy, attention that maybe I'm not giving them. And so a lot of last year was about pulling myself back from the yellows and reds. And it did get messy at times, but it has freed up so much of my life
Mm.
because I'm not giving time, energy, and attention to all these people and even situations. It's not just people that works with this system. But once you pull yourself and your time, energy, attention, and somebody pointed out that time, energy, attention is Tea. So like who would you with?
Oh, I
Um
like that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you pull that away from all the yellows and reds and you have the awareness, and sometimes you have to have them in your life. Maybe it's a professional arrangement or like it's a work like a colleague or it's an in-law or something like this. Not saying anything about my in-laws. I actually really like my in-laws. But like just putting that out there. Um but it might be somebody that you have to have in your circle, but there are ways of pulling yourself back from them even if they
Mm.
have to stay in your circle, right? Uh,
Mm.
however, yeah,
I
I
really
feel
like that. That seems that's a phenomenon. I love that. The green, yeah, it's very easy to remember that. And i- when you say that, what it also makes me think of is it's sort of on our planet. You can be individually, in our lives that we have, we don't, where our energy. We suppose we have to take ownership of our own energy rather than just allowing, but it's also collectively in the world, isn't it? Because like if we accept what I'm hearing you say is what are we, what we individually are giving our energy to is what is creating our life. Because that's sort of what you're saying, isn't it? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you're giving your energy to things that maybe are not feeding you or are not maybe creating something good in the world, like that's how powerful we are, like if we don't. So I just see it when I hear you as well, go, I just feel this so much now. People, we're all at times giving out about the world and something that's going on in the world, but it's our energy. It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? You think if I give my energy to something that's an issue, could be a person, could be a situation in the world, I'll solve it, but you don't. You just create more of it, don't you? Like it's actually,
you feed
you
it.
know, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it,
And like I don't I'm very hesitant to say that sometimes because I also don't want to just ignore certain issues or just kind of neglect certain
yeah,
things.
I know.
I think there's also so what I talk to my clients about is using wasted time. So like, you don't have to go to the gym. You could do a plank the first, like when you first wake up and before you even get out of bed, you could do a plank for a minute in your bed that you don't you're already doing some kind of core exercise. You could balance on while you're
That's
brushing your
really not even hitting the ground running, hitting the bed running.
like
You're
it's
really,
somewhere you could use like the time that you're waiting for
yes.
the pedal to stretch out your calves. You could be sitting in a meeting and stretching your piriformis muscle very simply. Like there are these times where we're just sitting, waiting, doing nothing, waiting in a queue, waiting for the bus, waiting for whatever that we actually could use to do little things to benefit ourselves. Like one thing, for instance, is if you keep a pint of water beside your bed and the first thing when you sit up in bed, you just finish the pint of water, it gives you the opportunity to sit in bed for another few minutes, but you're already doing something very positive for yourself. Um,
I do
so
that, sorry, with the lemon oil with my water because
there
I
you
was
go.
forgetting to do it. So I said, I'm now putting the lemon oil right beside my water, right beside my bed, because I wasn't taking it. I wanted to give it a bit of time before I'd eat. So I said, well, the first thing you wake up, you just go do that. Don't
Yeah,
wait for a half an hour, an hour. And it's made a difference. It actually has made a big difference. It's a simple thing.
right? Yeah. So like, yeah, it's always instead of carving out entire chunks of your day, just using the little bits here and there to yeah, do something positive for yourself. So for instance, my cycle into work, I pass the well on Loch Italia. I can't remember. I think it's called St. Augustine's. Like a rag tree. There's a tree with like all these bits of material tied to it, and there's like kind of an altar, and there's this circular configuration. Didn't know what it was for years, and I found out recently it's a well. And I use that as a reminder, like a visual cue to express my gratitude. So I will, while I'm cycling along Loch Italia, because I know it's there, I will just start listing the things that I'm grateful for. And so it's kind of like a little prayer, I guess, that I say while I'm cycling, but I am taking the opportunity to be grateful because I'm just cycling into work anyway. So, like, I might as well use that time to do something positive for myself. So whether it's like saying a little prayer or expressing gratitude or maybe doing affirmations or something like this, it it's
Yeah.
wasted time. Like you're using the time physically, but mentally and emotionally, you can be engaged in traffic and
Yeah.
letting that pull you in, or you can just be in your own world and kind of mentally curating yourself for the day or like preparing yourself for the day.
I like that. It is taking more ownership, isn't it, of your life rather than going, life is running me and I've all these things to do and I'm just following them. It's like, no, like what you're saying, okay, yes, there's certain things, but you have your nobody has control over here. Well, you hope not. Your what you're focusing on and what you're dreaming. Yes, maybe what's coming in, but nobody, it's you who decides, don't isn't it? What you said, what you focus on. Um,
I think
yeah,
there is a lot of effort to program us into
well,
our 100%. There's a lot of
yeah,
fear mongering out there, especially over the last 5 years.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but once you have that awareness, you can choose, no, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
yeah.
Uh, and there are so many times where I have to consciously choose, no, Jada, you're not going to just watch YouTube videos about what's going on in the world. You're going to listen to a guided journey or a meditation, or you're going to listen to double flute music instead of heavy metal because it is
I
will get you
know.
better alignment.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or the high frequency music. That's been a really brilliant, I found in the last few years. I play, different hertz, even if I'm just on my laptop. And I can
yeah,
just feel my whole body go because it's the same. I'm just, I feel safe and supported rather than something. But I definitely never have the news on. I don't make any, yeah, that
yeah.
whatever that is. Um, wouldn't call it news. I don't call it news anymore because I think, and I would have been so afraid to sort of talk about things like this. But I think it's okay until we do start it. As you said, there is a lot of programming, and once you start to wake up, you make a choice. Then at least you can make an informed choice about what you want to listen to, what you want to do, what you want to focus on. Do you feel there's more sort of awareness of around our power to create or play a role in creating that we create our lives basically in
Yeah.
conjunction with
You know,
life?
I think actually social media has an interesting way of showing that, because of these algorithms. So we actually, what we're shown is dictated to us based on our past behaviors. So if you can like take, I know that that's just kind of like,
Mm, mm.
yeah, but I feel like that really shows you where you are at mentally, what this is kind of mirroring back to you. And life
Yeah.
does that too. People do that too. That like if you don't meet anybody who's nice, then there's the chances that you're probably the problem. Do you know? Like life is kind of mirroring. And I've been that. I've been that miserable person so many times. I've been the victim for so long. And then finally somebody who cares about you enough to be real and say to you, "Hey, you're just being a victim all the time." It bursts that bubble and makes you suddenly aware. Hopefully you wake up to it and become aware and kind of take charge over it. And it's so difficult sometimes to take the wheel of your mental health and be like, no, we're going this way today. You know, that whole concept of like, what wolf are you going to feed? Right.
Mhm.
And like for some reason, it's just so easy to feed the dark wolf. It's just
Mm.
so difficult to feed the good one, you know? I don't know why
Mm.
life is like that, but once you get momentum, then it becomes much easier.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I think there's always the chance or the situation where we fall off the wagon because life is going to naturally ebb and flow with us in that way. And it's about remaining conscious and aware, like, yes, I have fallen off the wagon. Yes, I am sleeping in longer than I should.
Mm.
Yes, I am, I don't know,
Yeah.
insert here.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but having the mental fortitude to be like, I'm gonna allow it for today, but tomorrow is gonna be different. Whatever it is, we're making steps in the right direction. There's a therapy that I do. It's called Access Bars. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, but just maybe share a little bit. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard of it for the
I think
audience too.
I think it's like my favorite therapy of all time. There are things that I would have talked about in talk therapy for like 13 years that never went away, and then I went for one Access Bar session and it was just gone. Like don't even remember what they are, don't want to remember what they are. I don't want to ask the woman, hey, what did we talk about that day? But I know I walked in there plagued with it and walked out like it didn't exist. The way I would describe it is like if you were a computer and you hit control delete and click through the things that like clogging up your system and just got rid of them. And I know that for some people, like especially in the energy work world, they might say like, well, that's not good because those things are there to teach them something or they need to process that or whatever. But honestly, like I don't, it's kind of like
But
uh
sometimes you get caught in a loop, don't you? Like a
yeah,
mind loop that it's very, so it sounds like it's just providing a way out of
yeah.
that loop.
Like there's I'm glad you said that because I feel
Mm,
like there is something there. Like I've used that reference a few times where like we're kind of like records and sometimes we
mm.
fall into a groove and it's really hard. Even if you pull yourself out, it's still like you still fall in. And this therapy, um, it's it's unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It really just like goes in and like pulls the weeds from the root. Um, and I could not tell you how it works, but if I could get use an analogy, it's like there's this river of energy that is the access bars, and it is like the core of it is so fast, okay? And me as the practitioner knows where the footholds are in the river to be able to walk across. And you as the client, I'm picking you up and carrying you across this river and you just have to be willing to let go of everything you're holding on to because the river, the current is going to take it. But if you're holding on tight, like then there's a chance you might make it to the other side with it. But if you are just open to releasing it, this current will take it from you. And we both get to the other side of the river and we're both like, oh my God. Like we're exhausted.
Really? After it?
Yeah, like some people like it's not like they're like I'm have no energy, but it's like I I have nothing. Like there's just nothing. It's just your mental space is just empty. And you're just kind of like, what was that? You know? Um
You're going to
and I
have queues of people queuing
like
for
it's
that description.
what's amazing about it is that we're not getting into any one issue in
Yeah.
depth. We're
Yeah.
actually discussing everything that they're carrying on a
Yeah.
very superficial level. So it's like I'll say to them, okay, what do you want to destroy and uncreate or release and undo around regret? And then they list the things that they regret. And we don't get into specifics, like
Okay.
very detailed things. And then it's like, okay, what are we releasing and undoing or destroying and uncreating around fear or shame or anger or, insert difficult emotion here. And the list is sometimes like this long, and you read it back to them, and it's just like, this is everything you're holding on to. All of it is just kind of weighing you down constantly. This is all just simmering in the background. And once we clear it, it's just like everything opens up for them. They're suddenly able to be more of a blank slate that they can start to then input stuff, whereas before they couldn't take anything on because they were just holding on to all this b-
Yes.
stuff. Okay, I don't want to curse on
Yeah.
your podcast, but
Yeah.
you know, um,
It's okay.
and there's so many times where the person who walks in is not the person who walks out, and then if I see them again, even after that, they're just a completely different elevated person. There's light behind their eyes. They are laughing. They are, they've maybe quit their toxic job, or they've left the relationship that was holding them down, or like, or maybe I don't know. I'm not saying that everybody's lives are completely different, but it's amazing
Like
how.
you breathing space for something new to come in, I suppose, even if you're really laden down, that yeah, that's but those people who found it must have heard something because it's quite, I've heard of it. I haven't had it been to, I think I might now, but that like, there must be some awareness that you'd go looking for access consciousness bars, or somebody must tell you for those people coming into you, I imagine.
You, like, yeah, I think like people kind of talk about it and then it's heard through the grapevine. What I had done when I first started practicing it was I gave away like 21 free sessions to people just to get people
Yes.
experiencing it without any, you know, burden on them. And then they kind of started talking to other people about it. And for the most part, like that's, or it's, I talk to my clients if they're coming in for a massage and they start talking to me, or they come in for Reiki and I'm like, actually, you know what? I really would like to offer you access bars instead of the Reiki because I do Reiki anyway in the access bars. So like, I'd really love to offer you this. And it's usually those people that it is the most transformational for because they had no preconceived
Mm,
expectations. They're coming in thinking they're getting one thing and they walk out having experienced something completely other, that it's really profound for them. But it is just it is such a, I don't know, it's so amorphous, but it's so beautiful, and every person who
absolutely.
practices it does it so differently, and yet the results are always so on point the same.
Mm. It
It's
sounds like you're accessing, well, you say consciousness bars, sort of the consciousness that you truly are. Like you're tapping into universal I don't know, the truth of who you are. Like it's when you describe it, it sounds like it's very of this time because it just right. I'd like to maybe just come to a close in a few minutes, but ask you as well what your sense of where we are now on the planet, that like when you talk about that to me, what I feel is happening is all of those layers that we talked about collectively, individually, are hopefully sort of coming off. So we come into the truth of who we are, that we are hopefully moving into a new version, or, as time goes on, of ourselves, which is more based in the truth of who we are than all the layers of what we've been told we are and what we're meant to be. And anything that can support that sort of, because it it feels like it happened to me a number of years ago. Life gets more and more painful, doesn't it, in some way, until something will happen to go pop. It's your time, and you either do it now or you're gonna like. There's no, and it feels like we're reaching that collectively. It's getting more painful, and where everybody's, sometimes I meet people and they're saying, "Oh my God, it's so awful," and then in my world, I'm feeling it's not because I'm not too focused. I don't give my energy. I try not to, which can sound like I'm not participating, but I'm not participating because I don't want to participate in creating more of it. So yeah, how do you see, in terms of your work and what's happening on the planet? Because I think the more it's good to talk about it and give it an energy of where we're going and what we'd like to create.
well, there's a few things there. So I feel personally, I feel the worst is over. That's just my own feeling. And I feel things accelerating, you know, in positive directions. um, Somebody very close to me told me a long time ago that I was never going to change the world, and that lit a fire under my butt
Mhm.
to change the world. And I feel like people who are in the holistic space feel that with every person that they work
Oh,
on,
such chills when you say that.
yeah, that like every single person doing this work knows that with every person that they work with, that is another ripple, like that is creating these waves.
Mm.
Um, and so we are changing.
Mm. Mm.
That makes me emotional.
Oh, that's beautiful. But
We are,
it's good. It's good
yeah,
because we have to feel it. I love that you are, because that is the energy of what creates what you're saying, you know.
yeah,
I feel that more too. We have to I know that I can say for me personally, just in my life, I have to feel more into the version of me that I know that's possible.
yeah.
I think if anyone listening and you're looking, not looking for not advice, but just little maybe reminders, I know me, I have to keep I've always seen a version of me. It sounds a bit crazy, like nearly in a toga and a big rope around me, just
Yeah,
roaming around in
like
my
your
bare
higher self.
feet. A nomad wandering, talking to probably a version of the podcast on the road, just wandering around talking to people.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
no, but but I think it's lovely to do that, isn't it? It's like, so, yeah, just talk a little bit more about it. Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. Like I really do feel there we are people who have made this their life purpose. Like that is what we are doing. And I do believe that every single day I change somebody's world, you know? And so if you do that enough, like it ripples out. And, you know, like not to just like pat myself on the back, but there are at least three people right off the top of my head that are going down the route of becoming holistic practitioners because of what they have experienced through me.
Mhm.
Um, and so even if that's all I do, that's amazing, you know, like there are so many people whose lives have taken complete left turns in the exact right direction because of the experience that we had together. And the more of us that do that for each other, how can we go wrong? Like how can the world not change for the better? So like I'm not special. I'm just doing very special work. You
Yeah.
know, it is very special work. And the more people that feel called to it, and there are, I feel like it's happening, that like it's kind of amplifying and exponentially growing this like holistic space. The more we're gonna heal the world and change the world, and that the problems of yesterday will eventually just be something that we will kind of look back at and be like, can you imagine? Like, how? You know? So
Mm.
it's not going to be tomorrow, but like one day, all these ripples will equate to something massive. So I'm very happy to be contributing to it and to see it grow. And I know you are doing the same thing with this podcast.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think the light, like that you are now, when I listen, that someone reminded me that you can have a room full of darkness, and all it takes is a little spark of light, and it lights up the room. So the power of just, sort of hopefully, connecting with that light in yourself, because isn't that? It's like I always feel like what you're connecting in when I listen to you or feel you. I think this is more important, what we're learning to feel. We all come from the same place, and so when we tune into that in ourselves, it's sort of, we sort of connect very deeply. Like don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's much more powerful than just the words. It's the energy of feeling. It's always blown me away on the podcast. Like I can feel, I never thought you could, but I'm sure you feel that as well. Like you can really feel people, and I don't know what, it's just how the power of that. You're meeting them in the same place. Your home is their home. All our home is the same home, I suppose.
Yeah.
We're all coming home to the same place. It might
Yeah,
sound a bit.
I think
Hmm.
it's like the distinction is people who know the light is there and acknowledge it and nurture it versus the ones who don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
My time, energy, attention now is on the ones who do.
Green light on the light. Green.
Yeah. Like, I guess even the yellow and red lights are still lights, but, like,
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
um, and, like,
Yeah.
I remember a long time ago, I wrote this, like, poem about being fire, like, how I am fire. Like, I've always felt this, like, connection, this, acknowledgement of that, like, spark, that energy source, that something inside of me. And how I've wanted to be like a beacon for other people who are shrouded in darkness, like that they see, like, okay, there's something in this person that might be able to help me spark that. Jesus, Jada.
Mm.
I can't
Oh,
believe how emotional I've been today. But
beautiful.
yeah, that is one of the biggest things to inspire me, is to help people who feel helpless or hopeless, to show them that, like, there are possibilities, there are opportunities. It might not be the miracle pill, but it is something that is going to shift them in that right direction. It'll be that first step on that 10,000-mile journey, um, but it's something. And I remember very distinctly taking that first step for myself and being overwhelmed by the monolith or the mountain ahead of me of what this journey was going to be, but being so relieved that I finally took that first step. So if we can, like, facilitate that first step taking for other people, like, that's beautiful. I don't know.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I just want to say thank you as well for being such a brave. I just feel always so honored to be in the presence of someone who so bravely, courageously has lived their life. And I feel that's how I feel chosen to go through the dark in this lifetime and emerge the other side to be a beacon of light for others. I think there's no, it's just the most sacred, just amazing things someone can do. So thank you. Your presence is it, I think, before you even put your hands on anyone. So thank you. Gosh, it'll be a podcast of tears, happy
I'm so
tears.
sorry.
No, it's
I'm so
beautiful. It's
sorry.
beautiful. And I'm sure people listening, a tear is always a good thing, isn't it? It's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Um,
My
it
clients
really
are
is.
always surprised that I'm crying with them. Like, as they're crying and I'm like, I have tears coming down, and they're apologizing to me. I'm like, no, please go on.
No, it's very healing. It's the one
No,
thing, isn't it?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm, even in Ireland, where I think a lot of emotions have been suppressed and kind of welded in, it's something that maybe hopefully I can bring to the people
Yeah.
who is
Yeah. That's
help.
what I've noticed. Sorry, absolutely. We need you and more like you. And I've an Australian friend, and she's the same. You're just seeing these different energies coming in, I think, probably to shake up and help us. There's probably, who knows, there may be some ancient connection through the ancestral line somewhere. But
Sure.
yeah, I don't think there's any accident where anyone ends up, however we might feel about it. We end up, don't we, where we're meant to make an impact on that part of the planet. So, you
Totally. I
know,
think yeah, the ones of us that actually wake up to it, like you said, the ones that pull ourselves off the hamster wheel and start making.
or well, I was thrown off it.
Yeah, or the ones who are
I
thrown.
said I'm a very slow learner. I'm a, I tried to get back on many times. Gosh, I'm not learning to say, please let me on again. And I don't know, that was my but finally. So thank you so much, Jada, for your time today. I know it's just been a beautiful experience for me, and I know for everyone listening, because this is how we spread more of the light and the hope, and we hope for others. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Are you mainly in person doing appointments with people, I imagine? Is it?
Yeah, so I will start doing group work very soon, but it is just for my clients, so people will have to become my clients first in order to be kind of invited in to be a part of that. But I'm really looking forward to that. My practice is called She Kneads, so Shekneads. It's a pun for, like, massage,
Mhm.
like
A
eating.
nice one. I'll put it all in the description box as well when it goes out.
Perfect. I can't answer phone calls because of the nature of my work, so a text message, as soon as I see it, I can get back to you within hopefully 48 hours. But yeah, I'm not great at, immediate back-to-back interaction, but you know, I am.
I think that's good though. Sorry, I have to say, because I think in this world of instant, you need to answer the phone, you need to reply to a message. I sometimes think, and I know myself, I sometimes send a message when really I should have paused, taken a breath, and figured it out for myself.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm learning. So I think it's no harm that we don't all, just breathe, come back into our own um, energy and take a moment. And just to the group work, is the group work online then, if people did become clients?
No, it'll be in person.
Okay.
I might consider doing online stuff eventually. I have an aversion, I think lockdown did
Yeah,
that to
I know. It's nice to get, yeah.
work out. But I the nature of the work that I'm going to be doing, I think needs to be experienced in person. So yeah, unfortunately,
Okay.
it will just be in
Okay.
person.
Yeah.
Uh, we'll see.
Yeah.
What
See how it unfolds.
Yeah, my partner thinks that it could be brought to like hippie festivals, but we'll see. Uh,
The new hippie. Whatever, the
yeah,
modern day
exactly.
hippie. Yeah.
But you're very welcome to come have an access bars treatment on me. No charge to you. You're welcome to come experience it.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
set any expectations for you, and I don't want you to think like this has to change my life. Otherwise, it's not
If you
whatever.
never see me again,
Yeah,
she's gone off in her robes.
yeah. About to grease to get her toga.
All limits gone, all bets off. Last seen wandering the streets of Galway in her bare feet. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, you're very welcome to come experience it. And I would recommend anybody to try to find an access bars therapist near you and give it a try.
sounds
Also for
phenomenal.
people to learn energy work, start to work with their own energy, become aware of energies, how to release them.
Yeah. Would that be, sorry, I should have asked you your top sort of, well, tips or advice for people, but that's sort of it. Would it be for, someone is in that, you know, exploratory stage, start to,
Well, like
what,
you said, it's the gateway drug,
it is
So
the,
if we can trust it to be the gateway drug, then
yeah.
that's all they need. Then they will just go from there. Life's roller coaster will then just take,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, isn't it? It's find trust where life leads you, because I've often found that often when I felt it was leading me in the most awful direction, sometimes, we just don't know. It's always one woman, I'll just share this, a beautiful woman in her, I'm not giving her age away because she talks about it, in her 60s in America, who came on, I said, talking about the grid line. She's coming back on again soon for those who listened to her before. But she was saying, like, she's in her 60s now, and she said we're being called really to live every day almost like we're at the edge of the abyss, going, what's next? And just being so present that whatever comes in, you trust and follow. And she said, I've been living this way for 30 years, and I can tell you it turns out better than you could ever have imagined.
I love it.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm endeavoring to do. But isn't it a beautiful, brave way to live? Like, just like on the edge of
I call it flying by
possibility.
my
Hmm?
pants. I call it flying by my pants. Yeah, I call it letting life take me where it like I need to go. That when I left Canada, I left on March 13th. So Pi Day 3.14, March 14th, because I trusted that the divine was going to take me where I needed to go. And my only plan was to land in Portugal. After that, I just let life take me wherever yeah, I just lived my life by the seat of my pants. And it took me to this wonderful place doing these wonderful things. So 100% I believe in living in that present way and just letting life kind of fill in the details, not making plans. Cause like I also believe that when you make plans, God laughs. So yeah, yeah, being open to what life starts throwing your way.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jada, so, so much. It's been such a privilege, such an honor today. I feel really, really filled up and nurtured and nourished, as I'm sure everybody listening. So thank you for your time and your energy and your words. Just beautiful. So thank you everybody for listening. And I'm going to put all of Jada's contact details. So if anybody is local, or just, I won't, you follow you on Instagram as well, aren't you? You're on Instagram as well. So yeah, we're all connecting anyways, I think energetically. I'm finding that. also. So, okay, thank you all, and thank you, Jada. Do you want any final words before I?
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's very important work, and also for the people taking the time out of their busy lives to listen. I have a podcast as well.
Yes, what's the
on
name? Sorry,
it's
I
on
should have asked you that.
okay, it's on ice right now. But it's called In the Skin, and it's about tattoos and the people behind them, like the lives behind the people's tattoos.
Wow. Where
Um,
is that available? I can.
on Spotify, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not very good at promoting these things, but yeah, I completely am in appreciation of the people who take the time to listen to these things and actually listen. They're not just like putting it on as white noise in the background. So yes, also a big thank you for taking their time, energy, attention to be
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And
Yes,
take care until the next time. Thank you.
thank you.